These guys have always existed, but when you have a philosophy that can be shared online, it's like a virus.
You know about white supremacy, but have you heard of male supremacy? It's not plain sexism or chauvinism. It's a kind of potentially violent extremism that experts say is on the rise. Male supremacy can be defined as a hateful ideology advocating for the subjugation of women. And the Southern Poverty Law Center has said this kind of extreme misogyny is increasingly a, quote, gateway drug for extremists.
This really kind of very ugly and insidious subculture of individuals, men across the United States and sometimes more broader, that objectify and have this misogynistic worldview of women that's uglier than many people even recognize on a day-to-day basis.
Male supremacy can go further than hateful ideas shared in dark corners of the internet. It can have violent consequences. 6 people were killed when a college student went on a murderous rampage in Isla Vista, California in May of 2014. 10 people died when a man drove a van into a crowd in Toronto in April of 2018. And 2 people were fatally shot when a man opened fire in a yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida in November of 2018. These are all examples of deadly acts inspired by male supremacist ideology.
These groups are generally considered to be part of what is referred to as the manosphere, which is essentially the online world where men sort of trade secrets on how to get/control/violate women in various ways.
The Anti-Defamation League divides the manosphere into 3 broad groups. So-called men's rights activists use legitimate advocacy for equal treatment in divorce and custody disputes as a cover for toxic anger. Pickup artists share advice about how to date women, but also talk about psychologically manipulating and controlling them. And incels are men who blame women for their own involuntary celibacy.
You talk about being rejected by a woman, and suddenly it becomes this thing that you can plug this new philosophy into it. You can plug this idea into your own experiences, and you become part of this larger movement. And that's really seductive for a lot of these guys. And they feed off of each other. They make each other feel that they're not alone. They find community in these spaces, and I think that's what's so new, and that's what's also so dangerous.
Extremism experts warn that misogynist groups could act as a feeder network for white supremacy and neo-Nazi groups.
The research indicated that there was, in fact, a bridge between a number of leaders and individuals in the alt-right and the misogyny that, in many instances, underpinned their worldview towards women in general.
It's the victimhood narrative, this idea that men are under attack, that men are being, somehow shortchanged, that we see reflected in the white supremacist movement. White men are being shortchanged. White men are being sold a false bill of goods. We know that white supremacists recruit in very similar ways to the way that ISIS recruits. And we know that misogynists are finding people in exactly the same way as these other groups.
Violent misogynist behavior is nothing new. But what is alarming some experts is the speed and extent to which this ideology can spread online.
Take domestic violence seriously, take threats against women seriously, take misogynistic threats seriously, and just be more aware of how this language can manifest itself very quickly and without very much warning as actual physical violence against women.